AITA for pressing charges. My cousin turned 18 recently. She's in high school. She doesn't have a car, and during her birthday weekend, thought her parents were going to buy her one. They didn't get her one and she was pretty upset. I should note that I'm not very close with my cousin, or the rest of my extended family for that matter. I only heard about this through the grapevine from my dad. Anyway, my cousin texts me on the Friday before her birthday asking if she can take my car. I just leased a new Ford Escape, to the mall and then for an out-of-town road trip with her friends over the weekend. Tell her no. She begs and pleads with me. I tell her no again. My car is for me to drive and for me only. If she wants her own car she can save up and buy one. She calls me a bitch and says that I ruined her birthday and that she's embarrassed because her friends think she got a car for her birthday and she doesn't have one. I don't respond to her and think nothing of it. The weekend comes and I sleep in very late on that Saturday, waking up at 1 p.m, don't judge lol. Even though my car is parked in my driveway and my gate is closed, I come to realize that someone egged and TP'd my car with many eggs and 5 to 6 rolls of TP. And since the weather was warm outside, the raw egg baked into my car, along with the dried up toilet paper, destroying the paint. Since I have security cameras around my house, I decide to go back and watch. At around 9:30ish that morning, I see my cousin and a bunch of her stupid friends vandalizing my car. I'm surprised she didn't smash the windows and poke holes in the tires too. To save my post from the 3,000 character limit, I obviously pressed charges and my cousin is in legal trouble. Her and her parents are pissed off at me for pressing charges. Her parents telling me that she's just a kid and that she's been through a lot of emotional stress doing virtual schooling for this past year and that I should take that into consideration, and that I should be ashamed of myself for pressing legal charges against my baby cousin, that I'm almost 30 and don't I remember what I was like at that age. I do remember, and I wasn't stupid enough to egg anyone's car, and can't she work something out with me like doing chores around my house for money if I drop the charges? That she's young, that she doesn't need a felony on her record, etc. And that it was just a prank. Right after I pressed charges, my cousin was calling and texting me over and over saying that this could have been avoided had I let her take my car. Am I the asshole in this situation? I need to add that my cousin already has a felony on her record, a DUI. She's not remorseful of anything. Also, my aunt and uncle will not pay me for the damages. They just want me to drop the charges and pay for everything myself like nothing happened. They are cheap. NTA. Your cousin is a gaping asshole for blaming you, and her parents are assholes for enabling her BS. Press charges and make her pay for the damage. Yeah, this is the craziest bit to me. An 18-year-old can be a bit ridiculous, but the parents effectively condoning it is bonkers. If I did that, my dad would have made lick the egg off the car and then pay for the new paint job. Wild. NTA. And with how enabling her parents are, I am genuinely surprised they didn't get her a car. Maybe I'm petty, but I would have rubbed that in their faces. Oh, maybe this could have been avoided if you just bought her a car. NTA. They're such idiots, and hold firm on pressing charges. NTA. I was just a kid once and didn't egg anything. Also, ruined paint on a vehicle isn't something one works off with chores. It's something one gets a job and pays for with money. She lied to her friends, refused to accept no for an answer, trespassed and committed vandalism and property damage, and you are the asshole? I'm trying desperately to understand that leap. Anyone else? Question mark. AITA for refusing to cook for my boyfriend's daughter even though she had a breakdown. I have been dating this guy, Mark, who has a 14-year-old kid, Jennifer, for a while now. I have only met her a couple of times, so we aren't that close. I started seeing her often after I moved in with Mark, during his custody time. We get along fine and I think we are bonding well. There is just one issue. Since I grew up in poverty, I hate wasting food. Jennifer has an issue with food. I am not talking about being a little cranky when hungry. She would cry and scream and even break things if dinner gets delayed by half an hour. During her last visit, work was very hectic for me and Mark. Mark had to go to office while I WFH. Since I knew how busy I would be end of day and how Jennifer gets, I woke up early, prepare breakfast, lunch and dinner. I informed her the same. End of day, I am in so many meeting and calls and Jennifer barged in 15 past her dinner time and told me serve her dinner. I reminded her that the dinner was in the fridge and all she had to do was heat it up. She comes back 15 minutes later and told me that she threw the food away and now she wanted me to give her a snack for the time being and make her something else. I told her that I am not going to do that and then locked myself inside the study. I could hear her screaming and crying and I refused to give in. Once my work was done, 2 hours later, she was still crying. She never heated the dinner. She tried it cold, didn't like it, threw the entire dinner for 3 away and then started demanding me for a freshly cooked dinner. She begged me to cook her something and I told her that I already did cook her something and that she threw it away. I told her she can either cook for herself or wait until her father comes home and he can cook for her. I went to bed hungry as I was so tired. Next day, Mark told me that he didn't get home until midnight and she was still sobbing when he arrived. Although he agrees that Jennifer was acting entitled, he also says that I should have just cooked her something once my work was done as I knew about her food issues instead of letting her cry for hours. I got pissed off and told him that I am not cooking for either of them anymore. AITA here. Edit. She isn't diagnosed with anything. NTA. I'm not throw the word therapy lightly, but this sounds extreme. At the age of 14 I could cook simple things and bake simple things. First step would bend her rule something more serious out with therapy. Crying for 4 to 6 hours is a really extreme reaction, and parallel the second step would be to involve her in cooking and teach her cooking. Every meal she needs to have a chore in. NTA. She threw the food away. You are not her cook or made to do what she wishes. Unless she has a medically diagnosed problem, throwing away food for 3 people cannot be condoned when both of you are working. That said, why is Mark enabling her behavior? Does he expect you or himself to cook for her entire life? It's also very concerning that she spent half the night crying over this. Normal 14-year-old would look in the freezer for ice cream. NTA. Is she okay? Having a meltdown at 14 because food is a little late is quite extreme. And to still be sobbing by midnight. Maybe she needs therapy? For the record, I never suggested she might be neurodivergent. Breaking things, screaming and crying because your food is a little late at the age of 14 isn't healthy in the slightest. Dad needs to sort something out, especially if things are the same at her mom's. I agree. If she has such a rigid eating schedule, there is probably something else going on. TA, op, edit, rigid not ridged, lol. NTA, barring any serious special needs, this should have been nipped in the bud years ago. I could cook my own dinner, a basic grilled cheese, at 8 or 9. I certainly wouldn't throw away food enough for 3 people. Sometimes there has to be a harsh lesson that the world doesn't revolve around you. ETA, I say this as someone who gets panic attacks from the sugar drop when I don't eat. AITA for not giving my food to my aunt. I'm 17 meters. I really like cooking and I'm very good at it. I wish to become a professional chef when I grow up, and have already written a cookbook. Everybody in my family knows this about me, and on several occasions I have made, with help from my sister, meals for family gatherings. That said, I do not like sharing my food. Once I take food onto my plate, I don't like anybody else eating from my plate. I love food and always make enough so that I will feel full. If other people are going to eat, I do make extra. However, I enjoy taking a full plate serving of my favorite dishes and like to finish it all. My parents know this and so does my sister. Usually nobody else asks for me to share my food with them. Yesterday my mother and aunt went out for dinner and I was home alone. I made some crock-pot spaghetti and meatballs and sat down to eat in front of the television. After 5 minutes my mom and aunt came back home. I asked them how dinner was and they said it was fine. My aunt saw me eating spaghetti and told me how how mouth-watering my food is. Thanked her and continued to eat. She kept eyeing my plate as I was eating and I felt a little uncomfortable. My mom saw this and said, "Hey, why don't you give some to Aunt Meg?" I chuckled and said, "Oh sorry, there's none left. If I'd have known you wanted it I could have made more." My aunt said, "That's okay, you can just give me half of yours." I was a little taken aback and looked at my mom, but she nodded at me urging me to give her my food. I said, "Didn't you guys have dinner already?" She said, "Yes, but you know I can't control myself around your food, haha." She even went to the kitchen and got a plate and fork for herself and was coming to where I was sitting to take food from me. I stood up and said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go finish this in my room," went to my room and locked the door and finished my food. By the time I came out my aunt was gone and my mother was very mad at me for disrespecting her like that. Was I in the wrong here? Edit, holy fuck lol. Thanks for the upvotes. I just want to say that I'm not overweight. I'm 6 feet tall and weigh 63 kilograms, so I'm definitely not overweight. And I cooked in a 1.5 quart and made just enough to feed myself. And also I'm still in school, so I live with my parents and they buy the groceries. You guys need to stop sending me messages about how I'm fat and greedy. I'm not fat, and even if I was, it doesn't matter. I do not like that you all are body shaming me despite not even knowing what my body looks like. Stop fat shaming my aunt too. Although she was acting greedy, that does not mean you get to shame her. Please stop. NTA who asks for food after a full meal and your mom knows you don't like to share. Why can't she explain this instead of telling you that you need to share? It would have made things easier to say, "I'm not comfortable sharing." In this case you owed them nothing, and it's super rude to come up to someone and be like, "Give me half," like good grief. Asking for a bite I could understand, but half? Heck no. Why would you give half your dinner away? Then you'd be still hungry afterwards. Nah. Yeah, asking someone for a bite of their food is generally okay, but asking someone for half of their food is absurd. I've never heard of such a thing, especially asking someone who has a pet peeve of not wanting to share what's on their plate. NTA, it's rude to ask for someone's food on their plate, and half at that. Your mom, I presume, knows how you are and she should have diverted her sister. NTA, no one is entitled to the food on your plate. The aunt is an adult. If she can't control herself around your food, then she should work on that.